Florida, the Sunshine State, a dream destination for millions of travelers every single year. From the white sandy beaches of Naples to the energy of Miami, from Orlando's theme parks to the quiet winter retreats along the Gulf Coast, Florida has long been powered by tourism. But right now, that engine is sputtering. The numbers are striking. Florida's largest group of international visitors, Canadians, is down nearly 20% compared to just last year. That may sound like a statistic, but on the ground, it's something you can see. Emptier beaches, restaurants with fewer customers, and outlet malls that once bustled with Canadian snowbirds now echoing with silence. Why is this happening? The story isn't simple. It's not just about currency exchange rates or the rising price of a hotel room. It's also about competition. Other countries stepping in to offer cheaper, closer, and sometimes more appealing alternatives. And this Canadian decline is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. To really understand what's going on, we have to look at Florida through the lens of 6 countries. From Canada's sharp pullback to the British, trimming their holiday budgets to Brazilian families rethinking long-distance travel and beyond. Each market tells us something unique about Florida's challenges. And together, they reveal why this downturn could become a long-term problem if nothing changes. So stick around as we break down each of these stories. And before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more deep dives into issues that shape our world. Number 1, Canada. Let's start with Canada, because this is where Florida's biggest problem begins. Canadians are by far the largest group of international visitors to Florida. Every winter, hundreds of thousands of Canadians head south to escape the snow and cold, filling Florida's beaches, condos, restaurants, and outlet malls. Some stay for a week or two, but many, often called snowbirds, settle in for months at a time. They don't just visit, they practically move in, spending money on groceries, car rentals, healthcare services, and more. But this year, that familiar migration has slowed dramatically. Canadian visitors to Florida are down nearly 1.5% compared to last year. That's not a minor dip. It's a serious drop, one that locals say you can see with your own eyes. Beaches that were once dotted with Canadian flags on beach chairs now look half empty. Restaurants that counted on snowbird regulars say sales are off by double digits. Shopping outlets that once thrived on Canadians hunting for deals are noticeably quieter. Why the change? Part of it comes down to money. The Canadian dollar is weak against the US dollar, which means every hotel room, every dinner out, and every rental car feels painfully expensive. Add to that rising costs across Florida itself. Higher prices for dining, entertainment, even parking. And suddenly, a Florida vacation looks less like a bargain and more like a luxury. And here's the bigger issue. Canadians have alternatives. Mexico, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic are closer, cheaper, and aggressively marketed. If Florida loses Canadians for good, the state loses its most dependable winter lifeline. Number 2, United Kingdom. Now let's turn to the United Kingdom, another country with deep ties to Florida's tourism story. For decades, British families have been some of the most loyal international visitors to the Sunshine State. Orlando's theme parks, Miami's nightlife, and the wide stretches of beach along both coasts have been must-see destinations for generations of UK travelers. For many families, that dream trip to Disney World is almost a rite of passage. But in the past year, the numbers have been shifting. The cost of long-haul travel from Britain to Florida has climbed sharply. Airfare prices are higher than ever, with families often paying thousands to get across the Atlantic. Add in hotel rates that have risen in Florida itself, and suddenly the once-in-a-lifetime trip becomes harder to afford. There's also the matter of competition. British tourists looking for sun and relaxation don't have to cross the Atlantic to get it. They can hop on a much cheaper flight to Spain, Portugal, or Greece, where beaches, resorts, and family packages are priced far below what Florida now offers. In fact, travel agencies across the United Kingdom are reporting stronger sales for Mediterranean destinations, while Florida holidays are stagnating. Even those who do make the trip to Florida are often cutting their stays shorter, choosing a week instead of 2. That might not sound like much, but for Florida's economy, fewer nights means fewer hotel bookings, fewer meals out, and less shopping. The UK market hasn't collapsed, but it is under real pressure. Number 3, Brazil. Brazil has always been one of Florida's most important markets, especially for Miami and Orlando. For years, Brazilian families made Florida their go-to destination for 2 main reasons: shopping and theme parks. Orlando's Disney and Universal resorts became magnets for Brazilian tourists, while Miami's luxury malls and outlet centers thrived on their spending. In fact, for a long time, Brazilian visitors were among the highest spenders per person of any group coming to Florida. But today, that story looks very different. The Brazilian real has weakened against the US dollar, making a trip to Florida much more expensive for the average family. What used to be affordable vacations now feel like exclusive luxuries. Airfare from Brazil to Miami or Orlando has also become costlier, adding another barrier. As a result, the flow of middle-income Brazilian tourists has slowed dramatically. Wealthier families still travel, but they represent a much smaller slice of the market. Miami's luxury shops and Orlando's theme parks still see Brazilian visitors, but overall numbers are well below pre-2020 levels. Local retailers in Miami even report noticeably lighter traffic from Brazilian shoppers compared to just a few years ago. And once again, competition plays a role. Many Brazilians are turning to domestic options like Brazil's own beach resorts or choosing international destinations that are closer and more affordable. For Florida, this means not only fewer Brazilian families booking long stays, but also less high-value shopping tourism, one of the sectors that has historically brought in the most revenue. Number 4, Mexico. Mexico is an interesting case in Florida's tourism story. On paper, it looks like a natural fit. Close ties between the two countries, plenty of direct flights, and Miami serving as a cultural and business hub for Latin America. Yet, when you look closer, Mexican tourism to Florida has been steady rather than strong, and it certainly isn't enough to make up for the losses from Canada or Brazil. The challenge is geography and cost. For many Mexican travelers, the United States is right next door, and destinations like Texas, California, and even Las Vegas are closer and easier to reach. A flight to Houston or Los Angeles is shorter and often cheaper than a trip to Miami or Orlando. That convenience matters, especially for families traveling with children or groups looking for quick vacations. Florida still has its draws for Mexican visitors, particularly Miami. High-spending tourists from Mexico are known for shopping trips to luxury malls, boutique stores, and designer outlets. Miami's image as a fashionable international city resonates with Mexico's upper class. However, these trips are limited to a relatively small group of wealthy travelers. Overall, the numbers are not growing in any meaningful way. Airlines have reported that some Mexico-Florida routes are not filling as easily as before with fewer passengers booking flights. While Mexico remains a reliable contributor to Florida's tourism, it doesn't provide the volume or growth needed to offset declines in other key markets. In other words, it's stable but not a game-changer. Number 5, Germany. Germany has long been one of Florida's most reliable sources of international visitors. German tourists are famous for their love of road trips, rental cars, and exploring Florida's long coastline. From Miami all the way up to Daytona Beach and across to the Gulf Coast, it's common to find Germans enjoying extended vacations, often staying for 2 or even 3 weeks at a time. Their travel style has historically been a big benefit to Florida's economy since long stays mean more hotel nights, more meals out, and more spending overall. But in recent years, German tourism to Florida has struggled to bounce back to pre-2020 levels. Rising costs are a major factor. Transatlantic airfare has gone up significantly, making the trip to Florida a bigger financial stretch for families, and once they arrive, Germans are facing the same issue as everyone else. Hotels, car rentals, and dining in Florida are all noticeably more expensive than they were a few years ago. At the same time, Florida faces tough competition from Europe itself. Popular destinations like Spain, Italy, and Greece are offering warm weather beaches and all-inclusive resorts at a fraction of the cost. For many Germans, it's simply easier and more affordable to head to the Mediterranean instead of flying across the Atlantic. Travel agencies in Germany are reflecting this shift with more packages promoting nearby European getaways and fewer focusing on Florida. The German market hasn't disappeared, but it's weakened. And for Florida, that means losing one of its most dependable long-stay visitor groups. Number 6, Colombia. Colombia has been one of the fastest-growing sources of visitors to Florida over the past 2 decades, with Miami acting as a cultural and economic bridge between the two regions. For many Colombians, a trip to Florida is about more than just tourism. It's about shopping, business, and reconnecting with family. Miami's malls, outlet centers, and luxury boutiques in particular have thrived thanks to Colombian spending. But today, that steady stream of visitors has slowed. The Colombian economy has faced inflation and rising costs at home, leaving less disposable income for international travel. On top of that, airfare between Colombia and Florida has risen, making what was once a fairly affordable flight feel out of reach for many families. There's also the added layer of paperwork. U.S. visa requirements continue to pose a barrier for Colombian travelers, creating extra costs and delays. In contrast, destinations in Latin America and the Caribbean don't require the same hurdles, making them easier alternatives. The result is clear in Miami. Shopping centers that once counted on Colombian tourists are reporting fewer international shoppers. The impact may not be as dramatic as the nearly 1.5 decline from Canada, but it still chips away at Florida's overall tourism strength. Colombia's story highlights a broader pattern. Florida isn't just competing with exchange rates and airfare. It's competing with convenience. And if Colombian travelers begin to shift toward destinations closer to home, Florida could lose yet another reliable market. So what does all this mean? From Canadians pulling back in record numbers to British, Brazilian, Mexican, German and Colombian travelers facing their own hurdles, Florida's tourism industry is under real pressure. The nearly 105 drop in Canadian visitors is the loudest warning bell, leaving beaches, hotels, and restaurants visibly emptier. Florida's future as a global vacation hotspot may depend on how quickly it adapts, lowering costs, boosting marketing, and keeping pace with fierce competition abroad. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into stories shaping our world.